Caitlin Clark's entrance into the WNBA felt like a pop culture event. You remember, right? Sold-out arenas. Jersey sales going nuclear. ESPN couldn't shut up about her. SportsCenter had a Clark segment on loop, like she was Beyoncé headlining the Super Bowl and the halftime show. The WNBA finally had that star. The kind that makes people who've never watched a game before tune in. The kind that gets NBA players tweeting, mainstream sponsors signing deals, and casual fans asking, wait, is the WNBA actually kind of lit now? But here's the thing no one wanted to admit. All of that hype was sitting on one player's shoulders. And then, snap.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
A hard foul, an injury, and just like that, the momentum vanished. One awkward fall, and the WNBA's entire marketing engine seized up like a car with no oil. Now, players get injured all the time. It happens. But the reaction to Caitlin Clark's absence was like someone pulled the plug on the whole operation. ESPN quietly dropped coverage. Fox Sports rerouted programming. Ratings plummeted by 80%. Yes, 80. Merchandise sales tanked. And suddenly, games that were once trending on Twitter felt like they were happening in a vacuum. It didn't take long before conspiracy theories started swirling. But honestly, you didn't need a tinfoil hat to see the pattern. This wasn't just bad luck. It was coordinated, calculated. And then came the headline no one was ready for. ESPN sues the WNBA. Wait, what? Yep. The same network that built Caitlin Clark into a primetime phenomenon is now dragging the league to court. Over what? Breach of contract, false ratings promises, undelivered media expectations. Translation, we paid for Caitlin Clark, and now we're getting Tuesday night scrimmage energy. The vibes? Immaculately petty. But behind the headlines is something way darker. Because this lawsuit, it might just be a smoke bomb, a distraction from the real move happening behind the scenes, a ruthless media blackout that seems designed to gut the league's momentum just in time for, wait for it, collective bargaining negotiations. Yeah, the timing couldn't be more sus if it tried. With player contracts up for renegotiation and pressure building for higher salaries and better working conditions, the league suddenly losing all its bargaining chips. Media support? Gone. Ratings? Tanked. Public buzz? Ghosted. And without Caitlin Clark on the court, the WNBA doesn't have the leverage it had just a few months ago. Almost like someone planned it that way. Now, to be clear, there's no official smoking gun tying league owners to this media pullback. But come on, when ESPN and Fox pull the plug simultaneously, when coverage disappears overnight like it never existed, when analysts start parroting lines about declining profitability and limited marketability, the moment Clark is benched. That's not a coincidence. That's a strategy. It's like the owners saw their chance and took it. Use Caitlin to juice the numbers, sell the hype, inflate the valuation. And the second she goes down, pull back, claim financial hardship, and push for cheaper contracts. It's a corporate bait and switch disguised as a TV schedule shuffle. And here's the kicker. It worked. Because now, the players are scrambling. They're asking for support, for continued coverage, for the media to stand by the league through a tough moment. But instead, they're being met with silence, and in some cases, lawsuits. It's like being ghosted and sued by your ex-brutal. Meanwhile, Clark, still recovering, is being dragged into the middle of a firestorm she never asked for. Critics are calling her overhyped, over-marketed, a distraction from real talent. And supporters? They're left wondering if the league ever really saw her as a player or just a product. And the saddest part? Everyone loses. Because say what you want about the WNBA struggles over the years. This year was different. This year felt like a turning point. For once, people were talking. Stadiums were packed. The product was growing. But instead of building on that momentum, it got snatched away. All because the league built its house on a single name and didn't have a backup plan when she limped off the court. Let's be real. This isn't just a Caitlin Clark problem. It's a structural problem. The WNBA's been riding solo star waves for years. Diana Taurasi, Candace Parker, Brittany Griner, Aya Wilson, but none of them have been given the media machine that Clark got. And now that she's out, that machine's just turned off. Why not spotlight the other stars? Why not build a league where fans stay invested, even when the main character is injured? Because apparently, that's not profitable, not quick enough, not viral enough. And so instead of long-term growth, the league got short-term obsession, and now long-term consequences. And let's not ignore the networks here. ESPN and Fox aren't just innocent bystanders. These are billion-dollar corporations that treat sports like stock portfolios. They invest, they hype, they milk every dollar, and the second the numbers dip, they're out. It's not loyalty, it's business. But sports aren't supposed to work like that. At least, not if you care about building something that lasts. This kind of strategy, milk the hype, bail when it's inconvenient, might work in reality TV. But in professional sports, it's a death sentence for a league already fighting for attention. Oh, and in case you thought things couldn't get worse, there's talk of a work stoppage. Yep, the big ugly. A strike, a lockout. Whatever flavor it takes, the ingredients are there. Players are furious. Ownership's clamping down. Media's gone dark. And the league's financial foundation is starting to look more like a house of cards than a growing empire. We're watching a perfect storm, one that could knock the WNBA back years, if not decades. And all of it, every PR disaster, every legal document, every ghosted broadcast, traces back to that one truth. The league bet everything on Caitlin Clark. And when she got hurt, so did the WNBA. Now, maybe this is just the messy middle. Maybe the league figures out a way to diversify its star power, rebuild trust with networks, and bring fans back in. Maybe players rally, new icons rise, and the Clark moment becomes the spark, not the tombstone. But right now, it's giving cautionary tale. It's giving we learned nothing from history. It's giving why does this feel like sabotage? So, to the league owners playing media chess while the board is on fire, congrats. You won the short-term power play. But what cost? To ESPN? Next time, maybe don't sue the very thing you help hype to the moon. The optics are giving hot mess express. And to the fans? You deserve better than to be manipulated by ratings charts and shareholder drama. Because if women's sports are ever going to thrive, it won't be because of one viral player. It'll be because the system actually invested in the league. Not just the lightning strike, but the storm after. Now it's your turn. Drop your take in the comments. Was this a calculated takedown or just a series of bad breaks? Is the WNBA doomed to repeat its mistakes? Or is this the wake-up call it needed? And don't forget to subscribe for more drama breakdowns, media meltdowns, and corporate chaos. Because in this era, the real game is happening off the court. Somewhere in an ESPN conference room, someone definitely screamed, "We need a contingency plan," while holding a Caitlin Clark jersey like it was the last life vest on the Titanic. And what did they come up with? Silence. Seriously, not just a pivot in programming, not just a reshuffle, but a near-total blackout of coverage. Post-game highlights? Gone. Primetime slots? Replaced by cornhole and UFC reruns. Press attention? Dry as the Mojave. They didn't even try to sell the league without her. They just unplugged it. And here's where it gets twisted. Because if you're a player in the WNBA right now, you're watching your livelihood vanish while being told it's just business. You're showing up, working harder than ever, and still being treated like background noise because the chosen star isn't available. That's not just demoralizing, it's insulting. And it sends a brutal message. If you're not viral, you're not valuable. But let's not pretend this is just about TV. The corporate wolves have been circling for a while now. Caitlin Clark was a perfect storm, talented, marketable, white, media-trained, and just controversial enough to be clickable. She was the algorithm's dream girl. In the WNBA, they leaned all the way in. Posters, jerseys, social media blitzes. You'd think she invented the three-point line the way they branded her. And honestly, no hate to Caitlin. She didn't ask to be the only storyline. She just wanted to play basketball. But the league, the media, the sponsors, they took one player and tried to turn her into the entire identity of women's basketball. And that was never going to be sustainable. Because if your whole ecosystem depends on one name, one face, one pair of sneakers, then you're not running a league. You're running a limited-time merch drop. So now that the Clark train is temporarily off the tracks, everything's exposed. The empty seats, the lack of coverage for other players, the absence of investment in broader narratives. It's like someone turned the lights on at the end of the party, and suddenly you realize the place was never really full to begin with. What's even more ironic, there are other stars. Aya Wilson is putting up MVP numbers. Sabrina Ionescu has had insane highlights. Kelsey Plum is dropping dimes and sound bites. But none of them got the same machine behind them. The marketing budget was already spent. The story had already been written. And now we're seeing what happens when the media tries to copy-paste the NBA's LeBron-era playbook into a much more fragile system. You can't skip character development. You can't just fast-track to superstardom and expect everyone else to play supporting cast forever. That's not how you build a league. That's how you build a bubble. And bubbles? They burst. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, owners are playing 4D chess. With ratings plummeting and visibility tanking, they've got their golden excuse. See? The league isn't profitable without her. We can't justify increasing salaries. We have to be realistic. Oh, please. They're trying to freeze the players out, weaken the union's bargaining power, and maybe, just maybe, stall until public interest picks back up. In the meantime, lock in cheap contracts. Keep the revenue flowing to the top. Hope no one notices the league just got ghosted by its own partners. And if a few players leave in frustration, if morale collapses, if fans start adrift, so be it. That's the cost of doing business. It's so cynical, it's almost poetic. And here's where the ESPN lawsuit gets even more suspicious. Because when you sue a league, you're not just expressing dissatisfaction. You're applying pressure. You're telling the world, hey, we're not just disappointed. We want a refund. That kind of legal action signals a total collapse in trust, which means either the networks really believe they got swindled or they're using this as leverage to reset the terms, force the WNBA back to the negotiating table, rebalance the power dynamic, all while pretending it's just standard business practice. And the scary part? It might work, because without media coverage, public support fades. Without fans tuning in, sponsors pull out. Without visibility, players lose their voice. And without collective power, you get exactly what we're watching now: silence, confusion, and chaos. And yet, somehow, Caitlin Clark is still being blamed. People are acting like she personally ghosted ESPN, torched the ratings, and orchestrated the league's downfall from the sidelines. It's wild. She's not the problem. She's the symptom. The symptom of a system that would rather pin all its hopes on one player than invest in the league as a whole. Because you know what's really hard? Building an ecosystem, creating long-term storylines, elevating talent across all teams, developing fan bases in multiple cities. That takes effort, patience, vision. But going all in on one name? That's easy. That's fast money. And now, they're learning it's also fragile. The fallout from this is going to last a long time. Not just because of the lawsuit, but because the league just showed its cards. And now everyone knows how shaky the hand really is. Sponsors are nervous. Players are frustrated. Fans are disillusioned. And the trust that was just starting to form between media and the WNBA? Shattered. So what happens next? That depends on whether the league decides to actually invest in itself or keep playing short-term chess with long-term consequences. It's time to shift the narrative. Time to highlight the entire league. Time to stop waiting for another Caitlin Clark and start treating every player like they matter. Because they do. And if the media won't do it, then it's up to the league itself. Invest in storytelling. Build up rivalries. Showcase local heroes. Educate fans. Because the people are interested. They've shown up. They just need a reason to stay. And please, for the love of everything, don't ever again let your entire marketing strategy hinge on one person's health. It's not just bad business. It's reckless. So here we are. The cameras are off. The lawsuits are flying. The bubble has burst. And the WNBA is staring down a critical choice. Rebuild or retreat. Either they find a way to rise from this, or they become another case study in what happens when hype outruns infrastructure. We're watching it all unfold in real time. The tension, the silence, the power grabs, the PR spin, and somewhere in the middle of all this, a bunch of women who just want to play basketball and get paid fairly to do it. So to the fans out there, don't tune out. This isn't the end. It's the messy middle. And if you care about women's sports, even a little, now's the time to pay attention, ask questions, and demand better. The future of the league? It won't be built on viral highlights. It'll be built on real support. The WNBA was never prepared for success. And that might be the most tragic part of all. Let's rewind again just for a second. When Caitlin Clark stepped into the league, she wasn't walking into a well-oiled machine. She was walking into a rickety stage held together with duct tape and good intentions. The league wanted to go big, but they didn't have the infrastructure, the strategy, or frankly, the respect to back it up. They had one hand on the marketing lever and the other desperately trying to hold the league together behind the scenes. Ticketing systems were outdated. Local media coverage was scattershot. Half the country didn't even know where to watch the games. But hey, Caitlin Clark was here. That'll fix it, right? Wrong. Because what she did was shine a massive spotlight on a system that wasn't ready to be seen up close. Suddenly, the cracks were impossible to ignore. You had sold out arenas in Indiana, sure, but 10 rows of empty seats in other cities. National headlines one day, radio silence the next. The moment wasn't just too big for the league. It was too fragile to hold that moment in the first place. And the people in charge? They didn't adjust. They didn't invest. They didn't slow down and build sustainable momentum. They doubled down on the hype. They rode Clark like a rocket and never once asked what might happen when that rocket needed repairs. And now, that moment is gone. Or at least it's on pause. And without that engine driving the machine sputtered. Hard. Let's talk about the human side of this. The part the suits in boardrooms like to ignore. Because while the ratings are plummeting and networks are lawyering up, there are real athletes on the ground right now. Women who've spent their entire lives grinding for this shot. WNBA players who have put their bodies, their health, their personal lives on the line for a league that's now watching their value drop because they're not trending on social media. Can you imagine the insult? To give your whole self to this game, only to realize you're invisible unless a specific player is on the court? That your career is suddenly worth less because someone else got injured? It's dehumanizing, and it's infuriating. There are rookies right now who are playing the best basketball of their lives, and they're getting no coverage, no shout-outs, no highlights, because the broadcasters decided the season was less relevant without the girl who was on the Wheaties box. It's not just short-sighted, it's cruel. And yet, in the middle of all this, the league is quiet. Dead quiet. No press conference. No crisis control. No bold, passionate defense of the league's other stars. No, let's rally together message to fans. Just radio silence and vague statements. As if they're just waiting for Caitlin to come back and save them again. It's giving passivity. It's giving abdication. It's giving we don't actually know what we're doing. And look, we get it. There's pressure. There's politics. There are contracts with clauses we'll never see. But at some point, someone in a corner office has to grow a backbone and take accountability. Because what this moment needed, what it still needs, is leadership. Where's the rallying cry? Where's the public commitment to every single player who's still suiting up and showing out? Where's the plan to keep fans engaged, to remind them why this league matters with or without Caitlin Clark? Where's the vision? Because if the only plan is wait for her to come back, then you've already failed. You've told your audience, loud and clear, that the product isn't worth watching without one specific character. And you've told your players that their efforts don't matter unless they come with a media package attached. And here's where we zoom out. Because this isn't just about one league. This is about every women's sports league trying to break through the noise. It's about how success is handled. Or in this case, mishandled. It's about how quickly media partners will abandon ship when the metrics dip, even if those dips were inevitable, even if they're temporary, even if they could have been weathered with a little bit of actual investment. But that's the thing, right? The word investment keeps coming up, and not in the way rich guys like to throw it around in interviews. I mean real investment, belief, commitment, long-term vision, because you can't go viral your way into stability. You can't build a league off hype alone. You need roots. You need a plan that doesn't fall apart the second your marquee player is wearing a walking boot. And fans? They see through it. Maybe not all at once, but they feel it. They feel when the cameras disappear. They feel when the coverage shrinks. They feel when the league goes back to pretending it's small. And when they feel that abandonment, it becomes harder to stay emotionally invested. That's the cost of playing short games in a long-term sport. And the worst part? The players are the ones stuck holding the bag. They've worked for years just to get seen, and now they're being told, again, that the spotlight isn't theirs unless someone else is healthy. That they can be great, they can be spectacular, and it still won't move the needle because the system didn't care enough to build something broader. So what happens now? Well, we're already seeing the early signs of a split. Players are becoming more vocal. The union is quietly mobilizing. Fans are getting angrier, more vocal, more demanding. The trust between the league and its players is starting to fracture. And if the league doesn't handle this next stretch perfectly, that fracture could become a full-blown rupture. And let me be clear, if the players walk, if a lockout happens, if the collective bargaining agreement turns into a battlefield, it's not just a WNBA problem anymore. It's a media problem. It's a culture problem. It's a what do we actually value problem. Because these athletes aren't going to sit quietly while they're used as pawns in a corporate strategy. Not this time. Not after this level of exposure. They've seen what the league can be. They've tasted the success. They've felt the power of national coverage in full arenas and real hype. And they know it's possible. They also know it can be taken away at the flip of a switch. So yeah, this might have started with an injury. But where it ends, that's still being written. This could be the beginning of a true revolution inside the WNBA. One where players demand, not ask for, equal treatment, sustainable investment, and respect beyond the headline makers. Or it could be a retreat into business as usual, where the same cycle repeats until the next big name arrives and gets burned out all over again. The choice belongs to the people holding the purse strings. But if they've learned anything from this meltdown, it should be this. You can't build a lasting legacy on one name. You build it on many. On consistency, on care, on treating your league like it deserves to exist even when the ratings aren't peaking. Because women's sports aren't a trend. They're not a viral moment. They're not a bonus round for networks waiting on football season. They're a movement, a business, a product, and most importantly, a community. Treat it like one. So what do you think? Is this media retreat a power move, a panic response, or the symptom of something even deeper? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Vent, rage, analyze, or just tell us which WNBA star you think deserves more shine right now. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Because trust me, the next meltdown, it's coming. And we'll be right here to break it all down, one dramatic twist at a time.